Today I'm going to show you the easiest and most delicious side dish to your favorite Mexican meal, and it is ready in just 5 minutes. We are making a red cabbage slaw today. Hi there, I'm Sam with Bites of Wellness. Come cook with me. Red cabbage slaw is one of my favorite meals to make because A, it's easy, but B, it has 6 ingredients. They're all pretty much pantry ingredients to me. I always have them on hand, and this goes so well with things like Buddha bowls, grain bowls. It adds a crunchy texture to pretty much any meal. You can have it with Mexican food, Mediterranean food, Middle Eastern food. It's also made with no mayo. That means that this is a lot more friendly for your cookouts or even taking it to potluck dinners or things like that. You don't have to worry about the mayo spoiling on you. We're going to start by breaking down the cabbage, and I have to say, probably my favorite thing about this recipe is just how beautiful red cabbage is. I'm going to cut off the bottom. This is a little bit of an older cabbage, and in the recipe, you will note that it says to use half of a large head of cabbage. This guy's pretty small. I can fit it pretty much in my hand. It's a very large grapefruit size. So I'm going to use all of it, but if you are using a very large head of cabbage, I recommend cutting in half and just storing the other half away immediately. You can take the time and shred up all the cabbage at once, divide it and put it in a bag and just throw it in salads and stir fries and things like that. But I really recommend just getting it out of the way if you're looking to have a very quick meal, because it does take a little bit of time to shred up cabbage. So I'm going to show you the easiest way, which is to use a knife. You could also cut this into quarters and use the shredding blade of your food processor, but I'm not getting another appliance dirty today. So I'm just going to show you the easiest way, which is to use a knife. You're going to cut it in half. And you'll notice that there is a core right here. This is very tough. It's not fun to eat, so you want to cut that out first. And it's in like a triangle shape. So you're just going to cut one end of the triangle, and then you're going to go pretty much trace it, cut the other side, and then you should be able to just pop it out. So that is the first step anytime you're cutting up cabbage. Again, I'm using a smaller cabbage, so it may be okay to kind of slice this up, but almost always I'm going to cut it so that we're working with quarters, and that just makes everything so much easier. You have a flat surface, so you're not rounding, it's not moving. And then from here, just going to cut thin layers. And this really makes it super thin, easy to eat, just like you would buy store-bought. They're not giant long strands like pasta or anything like that. This is very easy to eat. And we're just going to move this to the bowl. So I've had this cabbage in the fridge for a while, and I will say that it stores a lot better in like a plastic bag. So I actually keep it in the bag from the grocery store. If you just have it like out in the air of your refrigerator, it will start to very quickly absorb all the moisture out of the outer leaves, and it'll start looking like crunchy kind of, and it won't have the same texture, especially on those outside leaves. So if you find yourself in that situation, you can peel away those top layers of leaves, and the inside should still have really good flavor and texture. But the best thing to do is to store it in like a plastic bag. So just a quick tip. One of the reasons that this is probably one of my go-to recipes is because the dressing is so simple. I always have these ingredients on hand. It is a creamy tahini dressing that is smoky from the cumin, so it pairs really well with like Mexican flavors, Middle Eastern flavors, even Mediterranean flavors. So you can pair this with so many dishes. It's so good, it's so easy. There's only a few ingredients, handful. We're gonna start with adding apple cider vinegar. I always have this on hand. It's not too tart, and it really helps to break down the cabbage so you don't have that overly crunchy flavor. Your fingers will turn purple, by the way, so don't do this if you're trying to impress someone. Buy the green cabbage. Next is the tahini. So if you don't know what tahini is, it is kind of similar to peanut butter or almond butter. It has that same texture, but it's made with sesame seeds. So it's a ground paste made from sesame seeds. It's like the main ingredient in hummus besides chickpeas. It's what gives it that like creamy flavor and consistency. I really have fallen in love with tahini. I use it for savory and sweet dishes. You can find it in almost every grocery store now. The best ones that I've found are Trader Joe's, Thrive Market, and Whole Foods has a great one too, and those are all really budget friendly. So once you have the vinegar and the tahini in, we're just going to add our spices and then mix all of this up. So again, we've got salt because everything needs salt, ground cumin to make this really smoky and spiced, and then garlic powder, which adds a layer of umami and just garlic flavor. Makes it super delicious. And then we just want to stir this all up. Now, tahini is a little bit tricky. It doesn't want to immediately blend in with anything liquid because it's a fat. So you just want to keep blending. It's going to look like it's just going to be clumpy. Trust me, just keep stirring it. The only downfall to tahini, if you don't have tahini on hand, I know this is going to be a common question. I always list substitutions in our blog post, but I also just want to mention it here. You could also use almond butter or cashew butter for this. I really wouldn't recommend peanut butter because it'll just change the flavor. You could also use olive oil or avocado oil. It's going to not be as creamy of a texture, but again, you're just making essentially a dressing here. So oil and vinegar are dressings, so you could do that as well. All right, so like I said, if you just keep stirring, it eventually becomes a dressing and it's not clumpy or anything like that. If you let this sit for a minute, it'll even thicken up a little bit, but because we're just going to pour it over slaw, which naturally has water and it's going to release water, we're not going to worry about that. So just going to pour this over our beautiful red cabbage, even though it's purple. They call it red cabbage. Purple cabbage, we'll call it purple. And then we're going to toss this. And I really recommend using tongs to toss your slaw. It helps you kind of grip everything and stir instead of constantly just stirring around. You can kind of mix, if that makes sense. So I can go in and mix it around like this, and this really helps everything get coated. So as you saw, this was so easy to make. It is very beautiful presentation wise. So if you're serving it at a potluck or a party, it looks very beautiful. I often make a really big batch and eat it through the week in all different ways. You could also use half red, half green cabbage. If you're short on time, the hardest part of this is slicing up the cabbage. So you could use that pre-mix cabbage coleslaw mix. That's great. Add some shredded carrot or cilantro. You can add some crunch with some pumpkin seeds or cashews, things like that. Play around with your ingredients, but I love this base recipe. It's so good, it's so easy, and I have been known to eat nothing but red cabbage slaw for lunch more times than I can count. So enjoy. Ten out of 10 every time, so good. So if you love healthy meals like this that are quick and easy and everyone in your family is going to enjoy, make sure that you find us on your favorite social media platform and give us a follow. See you soon.